Hey, this is Glover Teixeira, UFC light heavyweight champion.
Hi, I'm Robbie Lawler.
What's up, Fight family? This is your favorite MMA coach, Thiago Alves, the Pitbull.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Pedro Munoz.
Mike Brown.
Guys, I am Alexei Olenek. And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And welcome.
And this is We Want One Picks.
And you're watching We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks.
To We Want Picks. Hi everybody from American DraftKings.
My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. Jacob and I are going to walk through the entire UFC 270 Ngannou vs. Gane fight card. We are going to give you our DraftKings insight, picks, and plays. We'll let you know who we think is too expensive, where there's some great value, and give you the tools you need to help build a winning lineup. I did this video earlier in the week. We've had some changes. We've had some additions. We've had some subtractions. Some people dropped before weigh-ins earlier today. If you want your crack at $50 free, make sure you join our free DraftKings League. wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. It is free to join the league. It is free to play in the contest every single week. And if you win the free contest, I send you $50, but you have to be a member of this channel. So click the join button under the video to become a member and get your $50 free if you win our free DraftKings League. wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. Instead of sorting by price, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up the card. You see
started
here
from the bottom. Now we're here.
Okay. You see Rodolfo Vieira, Wellington Turman. That fight is off. Rodolfo Vieira just had a medical issue last night, which means the weight cut was not going well. And then Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain. Charles Jourdain already taking it on short notice. Ilia Topuria had to drop. So now
that $6,800 for Charles Jourdain would have been the best value I've ever seen in my life. Besides TJ Brown last week at $7,100, Charles Jourdain at $6,800 was going to be insane. So my heart is broken.
I definitely started to lean a little bit towards Jourdain as the week went on, but it is what it is. So let's start with Vanessa Demopolis versus Silvana Suarez Gomez. So we have broken this fight down a few times already. It has been rescheduled. Vanessa Demopolis, decent striker. She'll fight inside the pocket, throw a bunch of hands. She does not have very good takedowns. Jacob will disagree, but she does not have very good takedowns, but she is good on the ground. And then her opponent, they're both 0-1 in the UFC. They both made their UFC debut this last year, and now they're fighting each other to see who gets to stay. And her opponent, Silvana Gomez Juarez.
Wow, look at that. Look at those stats versus Lupi. Wow.
Yep, Lupita Godinez submitted her in the her UFC debut. But Silvana Gomez Juarez has legit power, will fight very heavy, big heavy hands, and is a striker. I think we both agree Vanessa Demopolis probably wins, but are you spending $8,300?
She's going to win, and the blueprint is there for Lupi. She can't judo as well as Lupi, but she's better on the ground. As soon as she gets the fight to the ground, she's going to submit her. This is a clear-cut victory for Vanessa, my girl. Vanessa, reach out. Please check your DMs. Yes, I'm spending $8,300, and I got $100K for whenever she wants it. She can travel anywhere in the world with me. Let's go.
Okay. Jacob shooting his shot. Matt Frevola is fighting the Steamroller, which is always a cool nickname. It's Matt Frevola versus Gennaro Valdez. This is an interesting matchup. Matt Frevola, he's a tough wrestler. He never stops coming forward. His striking isn't very technical, but that really doesn't stop him from just running in and throwing bombs. Gennaro Valdez, incredibly well-rounded opponent. Let's click on Gennaro so you can see. Incredibly well-rounded. It is his official UFC debut, and a lot of these guys may have wins on Contender Series, but first actual UFC fight. Gennaro Valdez is also a really solid grappler. He's much more well-rounded than Matt Frevola, but for the most part, he is a grappler. His Contender Series win, which doesn't show here because Contender Series isn't in DraftKings, he had 4 takedowns in less than 6 minutes. I personally like Gennaro as the underdog. I think he will relentless grapple, shoot, and not get stuck in a stand-up war like Matt Frevola will. What do you think, Jake?
It is Gennaro. Please respect it. Viva Mexico. Lock of the week. He dominates Matt Frevola. Matt Frevola should be 1-4-1 in the UFC. He's a grappler, gets out grappled. Clear-cut victory for Gennaro. Lock it in. He'll be in my lineup for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you look in the fights that he has won, I mean, he needs to wrestle to win. He needs to wrestle to win. He didn't get any takedowns against Sakarian, loss. The Terrence McKinney fight, it was just the guy was knocked out in like 2 seconds. And in his only 2 victories here, he got 4 takedowns in each of the fight, and that's how he won.
And
so
one of those was a split.
His only path is the grappling, and I think he will struggle a little bit with Gennaro Valdez. I like Gennaro as well, $7,500 underdog. Then we have Kay Hansen versus Jasmine Juice. Kay Hansen, I've made this analogy a few times this week, but Kay Hansen is a grappler. She's a very strong little, like she's short, compact, and just she's not necessarily jacked, but she will pick you up and slam you down to get the takedowns. And I said she likes to Mike Tyson her way in, because if you watch her go from one side of the cage to the other, she is just bobbing and bombing to close that distance, push you up against the cage, picks you up, slams you down. Grappler with incredible strength. Jasmine Juice, another official UFC debut coming off a Contender Series win, so no statistics there. But Jasmine is also a grappler. She likes to come forward. She pushes a really solid pace. I actually think her striking is better than Kay Hansen's. She's got really nice clinches and throws big, heavy knees up the middle, and then she'll use those to take you down. I think Jasmine's biggest asset are her hips. You'll see her in scrambles, and she'll end up on top because her hips are so good. She's great at scrambling. So even if she initiates a really poor takedown, I think she can get it. Jasmine is my underdog pick in this fight. I like her to win. She is a good-sized underdog here. What do you think?
Yeah, speaking of assets and hips, I found out that Kay Hansen has an OnlyFans page, so my Friday night just got extremely busy. Listen, the thing that you mentioned about Jasmine that I don't know if we mentioned in the breakdown is that clinch work. She is very, very good in the clinch, and that and her scrambling abilities. The only thing that really worries me in this fight, because I think Kay's going to get it to the ground, but if Jasmine's able to reverse those positions, she can control those positions as well. So I do have Kay in this fight. I have submission bets on her. Am I going to put her in my lineup? I don't know if I'm that confident in it, but it's going to depend on the rest of my lineup, how it shakes out. But I like Kay Hansen in this fight, but I can see the Jasmine side for sure.
Well, and Kay Hansen does score well. Even this loss to Corey McKenna, she had 2 takedowns, a bunch of control time, and some strikes, 50 points in a loss, and it was a close decision loss. So that's basically 80, if you just give her an extra punch here or there, and all of a sudden she scores 80 points. She does score well. I'm not spending the $8,800. I do think Jasmine wins. I'm on the fence, though, with the $7,400. We'll have to see what my lineup looks like. Then we have Tony Gravely against Simon Oliveira. Simon Oliveira is another UFC debut, so we're not going to have any stats on him, but Tony Gravely, ground and pound, absolutely no secrets about what he wants to do. He wants to come in, take you down, elbow you in the mouth until he gets a win. It's that simple. Simon Oliveira is he's got slick jiu-jitsu on the ground, and he's always working something. Even if you're in his guard, he's got a wrist, his feet are on your hips, and he's always positioning and working something. 11 of Simon Oliveira's wins are by submission. 6 of Tony Gravely's losses are by submission. So I think Tony Gravely comes out here, elbow sandwiches, maybe gets a TKO, or at least wins a decision with a whole bunch of takedowns. Because the other problem with Simon Oliveira is when you throw punches at him, he throws his head way back. It's like he has an issue. He doesn't want to get hit, so he tends to overreact, and that's exactly when Tony Gravely's going to shoot some takedowns. And it's possible that Tony Gravely gets tied up on the ground, gets in some precarious positions, and then just stands up, lets him up, restarts that cycle. Personally, I love Tony Gravely. I will probably spend the $8,900. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one of those weird situations where I don't really like Tony Gravely in a fight. I picked him in the fight because he should dominate, but that submission threat is so dangerous. But I'm probably going to play him with DraftKings because I think this could be like a 10 takedown fight for Tony Gravely, because Oliveira is very good in scrambles, so I think there's going to be some opportunities where he gets back to his feet, but I think it could be one of those things where it's just like he chases a submission, and then there's a little bit of scrambling, he's taken back down again, he's chasing a submission. I think it's just over and over. I think this could be a great, if Tony does not get submitted, he could be the highest scorer on this card with all the takedowns and the control time, and with maybe even a stoppage, as you mentioned. So
look at this against Burchak.
And that's one of the guys. That's one of the guys too. I picked Burchek because he was also one of those submission or bust type of guys. And if he didn't finish Burchek, which was early in the first or early in the second round, he was headed down that path of getting 10 plus takedowns because Burchek was basically just chasing guillotine, just Hail Mary guillotine, Hail Mary guillotine. And I think you can see Oliveira doing that same thing in the second and third rounds when he gets tired, because he's gonna be tough and he'll be there. But I think he just could be a Tony Gravely show for sure.
Yeah, I like it. I'm gonna spend the $8,900 for sure. Then we have Della Maddalena fighting Pete Rodriguez. Both of these guys, no stats because they're both making their official UFC debuts. Della Maddalena has a win on Contender Series. He's a really good striker. He's got a ton of experience. He comes forward, has solid power, technique. And his opponent, Pete Rodriguez, only has 4 professional fights. Only 4. I don't think he's ready for the UFC. He got his opportunity and he took it. I just don't think he's ready. Like Della Maddalena has a good record with a lot of fights and has been very busy at a decent level. He came on the Contender Series, double his opponent's strikes, looked fantastic, and he's got that deceiving power where jabs are dropping people. Pete Rodriguez, like I said, it's only his, this will be his 5th professional fight. He became an amateur at 19, so you can say he started young, but that wasn't that long ago. He's also a striker. He does like to bomb away, and he's got decent composure for his level of experience, but he's not very powerful. He's a power striker, but I don't think he's going to knock out Maddalena. He's not powerful enough to do that, and I think he's a little undersized for the division. So I like Maddalena for a stoppage, and I like him at $9,200. What do you think?
Yeah, I took Pete in this fight, but it's definitely a flyer. I'm not going to put Pete in my lineup. I didn't put any money on Pete. It's definitely a flyer situation because Jack is the much better fighter. He's a little bit too passive for me. I don't think I'm going to spend the $9,200 because there is that puncher's chance, and these are both strikers. And being a counter puncher, I think that Pete is going to be able to sneak in a few shots where he's trying to counter and he gets hit, and that's when he can find some trouble. But, Jack also is a killer once he has somebody hurt. So if Pete can avoid kind of those big shots, I think this could be a boring fight. But the second he gets clipped, Jack's going to run in there and try and finish the fight. So I could see how people would want the value at $9,200. For me, I'm going to stay away from it, but he's definitely the pick for this fight, even though my pick is Pete.
Then we have Hani Barcelos, and he's fighting Victor Henry. Victor Henry, another official UFC debut. There will be no stats on him as well. And that's a theme here. This entire card is either brand new to the UFC or Dana White Contender Series alumni. So it's an interesting card because I feel like there's going to be a ton of stoppages on this card because there's a lot of people under the bright lights for the first time ever, and some will shine and some will crumble.
Everyone's chasing that 50 grand, those 50 grand bonuses. That's a lot of money.
And Hani Barcelos
not for me,
nasty.
but like for most people. That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, not for you. And Hani Barcelos is nasty. Ton of experience. He has good hands. He's got great grappling. He has good offensive and defensive wrestling. If you look at this fight, this is a loss against Timur Valiev. He defended 6 takedowns, which is all Timur has. He knocked him down twice with his hands, had a little bit of control time, good significant strikes, 52 points in a loss, a controversial loss. So this should have been, add 30, 82-point win, which is a solid win, and he's a very, very good fighter. Frankly, $9,300 is a lot to spend because Victor Henry is making his UFC debut. Victor Henry has good hands, good feet. Like, he's a very good striker, and he does all sorts of crazy stuff in the striking exchanges. He's very, very versatile. The problem is he is a UFC debut, which I normally would pick against that, especially somebody like Hani Barcelos, who's unbelievable. But Victor Henry's dangerous, and there's just something about him in this fight that's has me nervous. So I'm definitely too nervous to spend the $9,300, even though I think Hani Barcelos should absolutely win. There's just something in here saying, don't do it. There's, some question marks with how good Victor Henry actually is. And you mentioned Hani didn't look good on the scale.
Yeah, I think the little voice in your head is a little freckled salamander because I picked Victor Henry to win when we did the breakdown, whatever it was, a month ago. I picked him again. Barcelos is the better fighter, but you mentioned the way I don't think he looked great on the scale. I've seen him slow down in fights. He didn't get tired to where he's going to be able to get stopped, I don't think. But I think that Victor Henry, if he swarms on him early, turns this into a brawl. If this is just a normal striking match, Barcelos is a better striker, right? But if you turn this into a brawl, I think Victor Henry can brawl better than Barcelos, and I think he can tire him out, and I think he can win this fight. So, if I didn't already have some underdog plays, I would look at Victor Henry as a flyer for DraftKings. Maybe a multi-entry type of guy is something you might chase, but he's not going to be in my lineup, but I have him to win the fight.
Yeah, I mean, look at Hani Barcelos. Look at what he's done in his 8 UFC fights or whatever. A knockdown, 3 takedowns, 2 takedowns, 1 knockdown, which led to a knockout, 2 takedowns, 2 takedowns, 2 knockdowns. I mean, he scores really well. His worst scoring fight was Said Nurmagomedov, who's also fighting on this card. I mean, when he wins, and he does so impressively. He's good everywhere. He's knocking people down and out and taking them down.
He's literally the best guy in the division that you probably have never heard of. Because I know leading up to
100%.
like that first fight, I was like, honey, but I think I know that name. And I looked at it and I started watching film. I'm like, this guy is fantastic. He's unreal.
No, he
looks like he's 50 years old, but he's unreal.
There's just something weird about this matchup, but honestly, he's worth $9,300. I think he is absolutely valued correctly, and if he came out there, steamrolled Victor Henry, that's what he's supposed to do. That's what the odds say. That's what I actually think happens. I'm just nervous, and I don't know why. There's just something off. Then we got Trevin Giles versus Michael Morales. Again, another official UFC debut. Oh, clicked it twice. But Trevin Giles is athletic, fun. He is a grappler, but he does pull off these wins in fights that he should not win because he's just so athletic, and he has a great, great jab that he hides behind. He has phenomenal submission defense. If you go back, he fought Brendan Allen in the LFA. He defended probably 30 different submission attempts, maybe. Like, he was insane. And then he pulled off his own submission for the win. Michael Morales, his opponent, Trevin Giles' opponent, is 12-0. He's got 10 stoppages. He is a freestyle wrestling national champion and a Muay Thai national champion from Ecuador. So technically, he's good everywhere. He's a fantastic fighter. My only sort of complaint with Michael Morales is he can be a little gun shy at times and take his time to set things up. Coming into UFC, his official UFC debut, I don't know if that'll exacerbate that or not, where he might really take some time and not throw those strikes. But if we look at Trevin Giles, like I said, incredibly athletic, and he's pulled off some wins he shouldn't have gotten, like against Dolidze here. And Dolidze scored more in a loss than Trevin Giles did in a win. But he is athletic. The judges like him for whatever reason. And at this point, he is a veteran. I mean, he's got a lot of fights in the UFC. He's a legit veteran at this point. Michael Morales, I think, is the better fighter top to bottom. But this is another one of those fights where it's like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about putting a UFC newcomer, even with those credentials, in against somebody like Trevin Giles. What do you think?
Yeah, this was a fight that they absolutely nailed. DraftKings nailed it. The odds nailed it. I think this is pretty much a toss-up fight. I think Michael should be the favorite. And if you're Michael in this fight, I think this fight's on the main card now, if I'm not mistaken. This is your moment, man. You cannot be in there and be patient, like Angelo said. Sometimes you're a little gun-shy, dance around the back of the cage. This is your moment, man. You have the skills. You're 21 years old. Just get in there, pay-per-view, and take it to Trevin Giles. Because if you take it to Trevin Giles, I think he's probably going to fold. But if you just kind of dance around and let Trevin Giles work that jab, you could find yourself in trouble. And if you're Trevin Giles, I would test the grappling of Michael early. I would go for a shot and just see how good he actually is in the moment in MMA wrestling. So I agree. I think this is 100% toss-up. My pick is Michael, but I'm going to stay away from this in DraftKings because I think it's just there's too many unknowns on both sides. Especially because, Trevin Giles, that last shot that he took was kind of a weird, just kind of a short shot that almost knocked him out fully. So we don't know how good his chin is anymore.
No, I agree, because before that he was a pretty durable guy. So yeah, I'm not touching this fight either, most likely, but it is interesting. And honestly, if Trevin Giles was a $7,000 underdog, I would throw him in there, but he's not. They priced it appropriately.
And that's one of the things I was actually surprised that he was as close as he was, because if you look at this fight on paper and you watch Trevin Giles fights, you're like, but Trevin Giles is better than a lot of people think, and I think his record reflects that.
Then we have Said Nurmagomedov versus Cody Steman. Said Nurmagomedov, not related to Khabib or the rest of that family, and he fights nothing like them. He is a striker. He's not a grappler. Obviously, he can grapple, but he is a striker. He uses his length really, really well. He throws a ton of kicks, and he could literally be 6 inches from you and still kick you in the head. He's that flexible, that versatile. His striking differential is 5-2, so he hits you 5 times for every 2 that he takes. And he has an impressive 71% takedown defense. He's fighting Cody Steman. Cody Steman's a wrestler. He's well-rounded, but he is a wrestler. And he wrestled his whole life at all levels, including in college. He did start boxing at 16 years old, so he does have clean striking. And he's technical. He sets a nice pace. He doesn't really have any power, so he's not finishing anybody. I mean, look at his career here. So all decisions except his loss there, which is a submission. So he's a durable guy. He can strike with you. He's really looking to grapple, and if you look this in pretty much in every single fight, he has a few takedowns, including 5 against Song Yadong, 3 against Aljamain, and then he was submitted in a cool scramble there. But Cody Steman probably going to wrestle in this fight. He's a good-sized underdog at $7,600. Said Nurmagomedov looking to keep it on his feet. A striker, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that this is, I mentioned it in our full card breakdown. Check out that video if you have not. But I think I see this as going kind of like the Giga and Calvin Kattar fight. I think the first round you saw Calvin Kattar take Giga down, kind of gassed him, and you kind of saw that look in Giga's face like, uh-oh, like what do I do now? I'm tired. This guy's still here. He's not supposed to be here. And I know that Said is not really a knockout guy, but he does have some power, and he does finish people. I see this same way. I think that Cody gets in there first round, wrestles him, gets him tired, and then when he's still standing there in the second and third round, I think he pours on the volume, pours on more grappling, and I think he wins the fight. So, I think I have maybe some other plays. How much is Cody in this? $7,600. So he's right around some of those other underdog plays I like with Vanessa, and it's gonna be tough. I'll see how it lands, but I think we both like Cody to win this fight for sure.
Yeah, I like Cody to win the fight, and honestly, he'll probably be in my lineup. And this is probably
just not being able to finish is just kind of like one of the weird. He should get a lot of takedowns, but not being able to finish, it's like.
I mean, it probably looks like this: 2 takedowns, some control time, a bunch of strikes for 80-something points. That's probably what this fight looks like. I don't think it looks like the draw with Song Yadong.
Song Yadong was more of like, because he was able to get back to his feet and stuff. I think that he's able to control Said a little bit better than he would Yadong.
Probably. And even with this, though, add 30, that's a 98-point win. So I like Cody to win. I like the value at $7,600. Then we have Michel Pereira in the feature fight, and he's fighting Andre Fialho, UFC debut. No stats on Andre Fialho. Michel Pereira, $9,100. The read on him always used to be he's stupid athletic, can do anything he wants with his body. He's got power, good grappler, but no cardio. He has fixed his cardio. At least it feels that way, because against Nico Price and Jordan Williams, decision wins. His cardio held up. He didn't really slow down in those fights, and he scored pretty well. He is fighting a new opponent, short notice opponent, he's fighting Fialho, Andre Fialho, and Andre Fialho is a striker. He's got a nice double jab, but that is literally the only strike that he throws in combinations. Everything else, he throws one at a time. And he is very hittable. Very hittable. Like anything you throw at him that's straight and not looping for a half an hour will hit that guy in the face. Anything. So Michel Pereira, I expect him to touch up Andre Fialho. I think Michel Pereira is going to dominate. He's going to win. I don't know if he'll get a stoppage here, because Andre Fialho is tough. He's a hard guy to put away. Chris Curtis dropped him like 4 times in that fight. So he is a really, really tough guy. I like Michel Pereira to win. I don't know if there'll be a stoppage, but there certainly can be, because he's got power. But Fialho is the type of guy, doesn't matter what you throw at him, he will still be live with power up until the last bell. So there is some threat there. What do you think with Michel Pereira at $9,100?
I wish there was some way to have alternating Michel Pereira and Tai Tuivasa on every single pay-per-view card. Like at least one of them was on every single main pay-per-view card, because there's nobody that's going to chase a finish more than Michel Pereira on a main card against a newcomer. This guy's going to come out and do some wild stuff. I could see him getting some more grappling involved, but I see some backflips. I see some wild stuff. The craziest part is, I think he was in a training camp with Sean Strickland and Johnny Walker. It's Michel Pereira, Sean Strickland, and Johnny Walker, which are like the three most insane dudes I've ever seen. So he's definitely getting some good training in. I think he dominates his fight. He's going to be in my lineup. I think he's fine to wait to the finish. And thank God that he made weight. Looked great doing it. Sometimes that's tough, but he looked great on the scales, big smile, flexing and stuff. So I think he's all the way, and I'm so glad that he stayed on this card.
Yeah, and I think he's good value at $9,100. I don't know if there'll necessarily be a stoppage there, but listen, he scored 91 against Nico Price because he did throw in some takedowns to control Nico, who's also wild. And it may be something similar, and you may get a stoppage as well. Then we have the co-main and the main co-main event, Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Brandon Moreno, the current champion. This is the third fight. The first one was a draw. Deiveson basically won that fight, but they took a point away, so it ended up being a draw. Brandon Moreno absolutely dominated the second fight, which is why he had a submission in the third round, scored 97 points. The read on this fight, at least for me, is that Figueiredo is the better fighter. He's more powerful. I think he's more well-rounded, more dangerous for sure. He's the better fighter, but he has cardio issues. The first fight, his cardio held up pretty well, actually, but he still started to fade. But then he got like a second breath, I guess, and came back from
second wind. A lot of times they call that second wind.
Yeah, between rounds, he sat on the stool, and then all of a sudden he looked good again. But the second fight, he just did not look like himself, had no gas whatsoever. Coming into this fight, Deiveson Figueiredo looks fantastic. Looks like he has energy, doesn't look sucked out, looks like he kept his weight down the whole time, training with Henry Cejudo. So I'm sure his wrestling will be prepared. He's definitely working. What?
And John Jones.
And if Henry Cejudo, could absolutely teach him about cutting weight the right way. So I personally like Figueiredo win this fight. I will have Figueiredo in my lineup at $7,700. I think he's a better fighter than Brandon Moreno everywhere except heart. I think Brandon Moreno has more heart than Deiveson Figueiredo does. So I like Figueiredo. The first time they fought, a lot of people doubled them up or thought about doubling them up, and then it was a draw. The second time they fought, even more people doubled them up because they're like, wow, that first fight was a war, and it was a beating. You might be able to double them up in this fight, honestly, because I do think it's a competitive fight, but I'm not going to. I'm just going straight Figueiredo. What do you think?
Yeah, my pick is Brandon Moreno, but I'll tell you right now, he's probably not going to be in my DraftKings lineups. And if you're going to pick one of these guys, I think Figgy is the better value. Just because, as you mentioned, leading up to this, he looks great. His weight looks great. He's at a great camp. He seems a lot more motivated than he was his last fight. And everything is lining up for Figueiredo, kind of like a spectacular victory, kind of like those typical Figgy wins that he was getting before he started fighting Brandon Moreno. So my pick is Brandon Moreno. He's probably not going to be in my DraftKings lineup, and I think Figgy's probably the play in DraftKings and probably for betting as well.
Yeah, I agree. I may actually, I don't have a bet on Figueiredo, but I might. I mean, he's an underdog. Right. And a year and a half ago, he looked like nobody on the planet was even his second in the world.
God. He's the god of war. He's terrifying, man. He's terrifying.
Then we have
him at the, sorry. I was gonna say even at the press conference, he had like the gold teeth in. Man, it's so funny. Go ahead.
You say he's terrifying until I see him at the grocery store and he comes up to my knees. But then we have Cyril Gane versus Francis Ngannou. Cyril Gane, everybody knows, super technical, some of the best footwork you'll see in any division, let alone the heavyweight division. Doesn't have an enormous amount of power. I mean, obviously you see a KO, TKO here and here. DeSantos was very old at that point. And then Derek Lewis, he just broke down Derek Lewis, touched him up a million times. Derek quit in that fight. So obviously he's stopping people, but he's not necessarily the raw power heavyweight that you expect out of some of these guys. But boy, does he put up numbers, 89, 85, 94, 105. This was surprisingly low against Tanner Boser, but 113, 98. And that's because he can mix in takedowns when he wants to, like against Rosenstruck and against Dontel Mays. But he also just lands a million strikes, 98, 135, 102. He's just so busy, dances around, touches people up, that he can score pretty well in DraftKings. $8,400 is fair value. And if you think he wins, you'll probably get your money's worth, and you should have him in your lineup. If we look at Francis Ngannou, all of his points, I mean, he's scoring well over 100, and that's because he's just removing heads from their bodies. The dude has a ton of power, and when he wins, it is early. Let's look at the latest that he's won a fight, the second round. His 2 decisions were losses. Miocic was a beating in their first fight. Derek Lewis,
those Derek Lewis stats are still, that's 11 total strikes landed.
15 minutes. Less than 1 punch a minute was landed. And only 4 points scored. But anyway, he turned a corner after that and just started dominating people for the last 3 years. If you think Francis Ngannou knocks out Cyril Gane, you're stupid not to spend the $7,800. And honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. Like, the 2 most likely outcomes are Ngannou by knockout, Gane by decision. Those are the 2 most likely outcomes. I like Francis Ngannou to win this fight. And if you watch the pre-fight press conference, that's the vibe. Cyril Gane called him big brother. And like, that is the vibe. It's like a big brother, little brother dynamic. The problem is Francis Ngannou hates the UFC, hates his contract, hates his former. There's so much going on. I don't know if it's going to affect him or not. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of said I don't know what's going to happen, because I mentioned this to you as far as the co-main and the main event. This is the first time where both fights, I literally have no idea what's going to happen. I know what I think, what I want. Usually, even if I'm wrong, right, you still kind of know what you think is going to happen. But these fights, I have no idea. My inkling leading up to the fight, as I watch the press conference and stuff, I think that Gane's going to try and prove a point. I think that Gane, he's going to dance around, but I think he's going to try and put a little bit more behind his shots and try to finish Francis to kind of prove a point. Oh, you're saying you knocked me out in training? Well, guess what? I knocked you out in the heavyweight championship fight to steal your belt. I think he leans that way, and I think it gets him in a little bit of a trouble. That's why I'm leaning towards Francis. I agree with what everyone's saying. You hear all the analysts. It's basically Gane's fight.
Francis or Cyril?
No, I think Francis is going to win the fight, because I think Gane comes in a little too aggressive and eventually gets caught. But I think I don't disagree with everyone saying this is kind of Cyril's fight to lose. I think he's a better overall fighter, the better striker. But I think he comes in and tries to prove a point, and I think he pays for that. But if he wins, I wouldn't be surprised either. So yeah, but my play for DraftKings, I guess this is a DraftKings video, so I'm putting Francis in my lineup because I think he's going to win and win by knockout.
The only surprising outcome would be if somehow Francis Ngannou won a decision. If he was the busier, more elusive fighter, that would be surprising. Nothing else would be very surprising.
Or Francis, like, maybe he comes in and is out grapples him somehow. I mean, something like that. Something crazy.
He could. I'm looking forward to this card. The card is actually kind of weak, but the main and co-main are a ton of fun. And honestly, the main event can carry this. It's almost like a boxing card where you really only care about the main event. The co-main is also good. Should be a ton of fun. Join our free DraftKings league at wewantpicks.com/DraftKings. If you are a member of this channel, you can win $50 from me for becoming a member.